big focus story. Now, this is a big move that the Election Commission has taken to bring more transparency in donations received by political parties. That's the official justification for the announcement, where the Chief Election Commissioner has written to the Law Ministry to bring down anonymous cash donations from 20,000 rupees to 2,000 rupees and cap cash donations at 20% or a maximum of 20 crore rupees, whichever is less. So there is an entire background to the story. This move comes in the backdrop of the poll panel recently delisting 284 defaulting and non-compliant registered unrecognized political parties, or RUPP as they are called in short form, declaring more than 253 of them inactive. So there was a massive crackdown on RUPPs. Earlier this month, the Income Tax Department conducted raids in multiple states as part of a pan-India tax evasion probe against certain registered unrecognized political parties and their alleged dubious financial transactions. The action has been taken by the department on a recent recommendation of Election Commission, which struck off at least 198 entities from its list of registered unrecognized political parties after they were found non-existent during physical verification. So in this letter, the CEC has recommended a slew of amendments to the Representation of the People's Act. Before we go into this particular issue of how will it help, how will it cleanse the system if a cash donation cap is enforced, let's first look at this entire issue of political funding. What are the different types of political funding? There you have it on your screens. Individual funding by individuals or group of people. There are electoral trusts by non-profit companies formed to collect funds. There is state funding, which is by the government. Then, of course, corporate funding by companies governed under Companies Act 2013, and foreign funding by foreign companies. So what we are looking at is cash donations by individuals and private entities, a cap to the effect of 2,000 rupees or 20,000 rupees of anonymous cash donation is what the Election Commission has recommended. We also need to look at what is the total income of political parties when it comes to donations, when it comes to receiving this kind of contributions. And there we find that when you look at the 8 national parties, you have a total of 1,373.7 crores total income. 27 regional parties, 530.7 crores. So look at the percentage of income from known sources, 63.7%. This figure is important. And percentage of income from unknown sources, 36.3%. The share of electoral bonds in unknown sources, 47.06%. This has been reported by Association for Democratic Reforms report for financial year 2020-2021. So it is in this backdrop and from this perspective that we need to have a conversation around the latest communication made by the EC to the Law Ministry asking for a cap on cash donations. Let's welcome, joining us on the program, Advocate Sanket Gupta of the BJP. Also joining us, Major General Anil Verma, National Coordinator and Head of ADR. Aishwarya Mahadev, spokesperson of the Congress Party. Thank you so much to each one of you for joining us here. Major General Anil Verma, so cash donation, that's a very limited part that we are looking at when it comes to electoral funding, and I just gave a breakdown of which are the other heads. But when it comes to cash donation, primarily are we only talking about private and individual or groups that we are concerned about? It doesn't cover much of election or electoral funding from what we could see. Do you think this could be justified as a part and parcel of cleansing the system of black money?
Frida, good evening to you and to the co-panelists. If you could just give me 4 or 5 minutes, I'll cover all my points in one go, and then you can go to the politicians. Firstly, I would like to say that there is nothing new. This thing was mooted in 2015, and so it's been gathering dust since then. The new chief election commissioner took over some time back, so he's sort of rebooted the whole thing. And so Basically, what we have to see is, this anonymous cash donations, this comprises of three things. One is voluntary donations. One is the sale of coupons, collection by hundis and things like that. And of course, now, as far as ADR is concerned, we include electoral bonds also in this. It is not cash, but I'm saying unknown sources. And 70% of the income currently of the parties is from unknown sources. You have given certain figures, so I won't repeat them. But I want to just tell you that, in the last report, which was put up by the national parties, only 15,000 rupees was received as cash donations in 2020-21, which is nothing, just peanuts. But out of the total donations of 124 crores, which were declared by the regional parties, about 2 crores was received in cash for the financial year 2020-21. So,
just a small clarification, sir. Are you saying that the contribution of cash is anyway very minuscule, a very small percentage?
Yes,
okay,
yes, that is what I'm trying to say. Whereas if we take a 5-year period, then the amount for certain parties, I'll just give you the figures, like between 2004-5 and 2021, INC and NCP collected 4,261 crore rupees from the sale of coupons. Now, coupons is an animal which doesn't come under anything. They don't come under the Election Commission of India. It is the political parties. We say we've collected so much donation from sale of coupons. Nobody knows anything about it except the political parties.
Which is why, Major Verma, that, it may not be appropriate, you think, to say that this could in any way cleanse the system of...
No, it will not.
Yes.
No, it will not.
Okay.
So my point is, in principle, the conceptual level, what we are saying is, the vision of the Honorable Prime Minister is, digital India and everything should be this thing. And to a very great extent, in the last 8 years, we have seen that the common man is using digital platforms. Everybody is using Paytm, RuPay, and all that sort of thing. Whether it is a pakode wala or a chai wala or a auto wala or a sabzi wala. So my point is, the defense which the political parties say that we receive these small amounts of 5 rupees, 10 rupees, 100 rupees, 50 rupees from the common man when we hold rallies. We can't keep an account of that. We sell coupons or, that sort of a thing. Now, so that doesn't gel with me.
Okay.
Why can't they have these QR codes there? Everybody's got mobile phones nowadays. So why can't it be digitized?
So if it is about creating transparency, accountability, this is just not it. It's not convincing enough that this will in any way cleanse political funding. Opposition has reacted sharply to this. So before I go to my other guests, let's listen in. We have a reaction from an RJD leader. Let's please play that out.
चुनाव आयोग को कोई भी फैसला लेने से पहले सर्वदलीय बैठक बुलानी चाहिए, सभी दलों की राय लेनी चाहिए। अब जो भी प्रस्ताव भेजा गया है विधि मंत्रालय में, हम समझते हैं कि कोई भी निर्णय होने से पहले सभी दलों की बैठक बुलाई जानी चाहिए, सबकी राय लेनी चाहिए। वैसे भी बीजेपी की मंशा है सरकार की कि सभी क्षेत्रीय दलों को समाप्त कर दिया जाए, छोटे दलों को समाप्त कर दिया जाए। लेकिन जिस तरह से हर एजेंसियों पर बीजेपी सरकार के माध्यम से अपना फैसला थोपना चाहती है, ये गलत है।
So the regional party is not happy with this, at least the RJD is not happy with this. Advocate Sanket Gupta, we'll hear out what the Congress has to say also. Aishwarya Mahadev is also with us. But, in response to what we just heard from the RJD leader, कि सबका जो है consensus लेना चाहिए था, all party meeting होना चाहिए था, then something like this could have been proposed, because ultimately it's the law ministry that will have to approve this.
We welcome the step of Honorable Election Commission of India, and what the CEC has recommended, they recommended a cap on the cash donation to the parties. The focus of the Modi government is always on the transparency and accountability. These are the two cornerstones of every democracy. when we are running a people government, when we are running a pro-people government, that the people should know, and there should be the guidelines so that.
But where is the transparency, accountability? I had Major General Anil Verma speak in the beginning precisely for this reason. That I don't want to be the person questioning you on this. You had an expert telling us that this is the proportion of cash donation. So there is a very valid argument that here is an attempt to throttle opposition funding, Mr. Gupta.
But if something is getting done, something is going on, and the CEC is taking some step to curb something, then definitely it will bring out some positive results to end up this black money and to end up some corruption, which is, you have also seen the 284 political parties which were receiving so much of funds through these cash transactions. They got inspected, they got raided by the income tax department. And
Yes.
Income Tax Department has also given the complaint to the Election Commission, and Election Commission has taken this step. And this is a step, this is really a welcoming step. We must welcome this step. This step is to curb the corruption and is to curb the black money which was going through the electoral process like this. This was the Modi government only which started the electoral bond process. The electoral bond process was also just to bring the transparency in this system, because this is a people government and people should know we are always on this digitalization of money, and the way this thing is being bought by this Chief Election Commission nowadays, I think this is a welcoming step.
Okay.
And the Ministry of Law and Justice
Before I go
will
to
be very happy
Aishwarya,
to go through
I
this.
will have Mr. Major General Verma respond to this, because there is this point made about how the Election Commission's decision comes after the raids conducted by the Income Tax Department in multiple states for tax evasion against certain registered, unrecognized political parties. They were mushrooming all over the place, and there were a lot of dubious transactions. So this is a ways and means, this is one of the way and means to crack down on those parties, sir.
Rita, in my opening remarks itself, I had said this is not a new thing. This started in 2015, this proposal. What is more important is the anomaly between Section 13A of the Income Tax Act, which says no cash donations above 2,000 rupees, and Section 29C of the RPA, which says details of donations to be disclosed above 20,000 rupees in contribution reports.
Okay.
This anomaly is more important. That should be reduced. It has nothing to do with these RUPPs which have been delisted and all that. That's a different matter altogether. And I would like to bring to the notice of the honorable panelist from BJP that he considers, and his government also considers, electoral bond transparent. When you don't know who the donor is, you call it transparency. I mean, we can get into that debate separately. I hope the
Yes,
Supreme
we've
Court
had a
hears
number
this
of debates
today.
on electoral bonds, and there
Yeah.
again, Major General Verma, I remember you saying that this has worked to the advantage of the
We had.
ruling party.
It has crossed 10,000 crore rupees. 60% has gone to BJP. What are
Right.
we talking about? Acha, and another thing I want
Yes.
to make quick point. BSP is one party which for the last 15 years is saying we haven't got donations about 20,000 rupees, and nobody is doing anything about it.
Right. Okay, but there'll always be an argument in terms of what is the problem with the full disclosure? What is the problem giving out the details of the source? Aishwarya Mahadev, where does the Congress party stand on this?
Good evening, Afrida. I think first and foremost, we're taking a microscope or a magnifying glass to something so small, while the larger elephant of a problem is staring us right in the face. The idea of transparency in electoral funding is something that is almost unheard of because it does not exist. And I think across political spectrums, everybody has seen a certain amount of opaqueness in what has happened. But today, I think in the far more unprecedented manner, you're seeing far more funding going underground and being undisclosed. So you going after donations of 2,000 rupees is hardly even a needle in a haystack when things such as electoral bonds, which mind you, the Supreme Court has not given a date for to even hear on the legality of it, is something that is looming large. The BJP talks about transparency and accountability, while you see every other political party in opposition is basically the lens is under them constantly for every single rupee of transaction for the large part, while the BJP's funding largely remains opaque. Sir spoke about 60% of electoral bonds. That is one thing. The second part of the skewed sort of political donations also are something that have to come under the scanner. But Afrida, the larger issue is this. Politics today is run largely not on sheer goodwill or philanthropy or whatever sort, but it is largely a moneyed game. I think the Election Commission, when they talk about political funding, should also, in converse, talk about the limits on how much somebody can spend. Because what has happened is the limits you've put have existed for so long on how much a political candidate can spend or a party and whatnot, that you're pushing a large amount of black money in and around that ecosystem, and it's further fueling and funneling this sort of black hole and unanswered questions of financial accountability of political parties. The Congress party has several times raised the issue about electoral bonds, political funding, and also reform in the sort of accountability of all parties across the board. But I think the government has not heard this. This election commission suggestion of 2,000 rupees from 20,000 rupees is going to do nothing when I can walk into any institution and get you crores worth of electoral bonds and anonymously I can donate. Anonymity in political donations is extremely motivated because more often than not, it is used in lieu of some other consideration from a party in dispensation, which is proof enough when you see how much the party in power is getting out of electoral bonds and also general funding. Political funding is all of it.
Yes, absolutely. And therefore, two questions to you, to the BJP spokesperson, Sanket Gupta. One, what we heard the RJD leader said, that there's a larger agenda to finish off the smaller parties. And to what Aishwarya Mahadev now puts out, saying how is this in any way going to bring in transparency? Because let me put this very clearly. The Chief Election Commissioner says this is being done to cleanse election funding of black money, but the amount of cash donations, as has emerged in the discussion so far, doesn't form a large part of the total funds received by political parties. Isn't that amply clear, Mr. Sanket Gupta? How would this move then clear funding from illegal funds or black money?
I don't know what is going on with all the parties nowadays. Now they are always, if we are doing anything good and we are doing anything to curb out all the corruption and the black money, they always have this point, why not we are discussed. This is just a recommendation of Election Commission of India, which they ask the Ministry of Law and Justice, which they propose the Ministry of Law and Justice, and they must welcome the step from the 20,000 when now it moves to 2,000 rupees. And in a cap case donation
of transparency is not going to help us, sir. You did not get the entire argument that we made and got here. We are going back to where we started from. We began with that. We arrived at this place where we are now, at a place where we can see cash donations are a very minuscule part of the game. Politics is still a largely moneyed game. The money power and the muscle power has, in fact, in many ways subverted democracy. And here again, it's tokenism, isn't it, Mr. Sanket Gupta? And I had the experts say that. It's a very minuscule portion, doesn't help the larger picture if you really intend to cleanse the other source of funds. There's still a lot of anonymity that is allowed. There is no transparency in electoral bonds. It's completely opaque, Mr. Gupta.
The election commission is taking one step or another in every term, and the public confidence in each step of election process is critical to the integrity of the election. And now when we are building a confidence of public in this whole election process, and now the transparency, when the transparency is coming by doing
where is the transparency? I'm sorry, I cannot let you get away with this. More than 1/3 of the total funds received by political parties are from unknown sources, of which nearly 50% are in the form of electoral bonds.
No.
To make funding more transparent, you have to get to the larger game. What is the point only addressing this little bit or portion of the pie?
This is not a little bit. This will definitely do something with the corruption. And now the steps will again come to curb the other modes also. This is the first step taken by the election commission. Now the new election commissioner came and he took this step, and we must welcome this step.
Okay. Let's have closing comments on this. Yes, Major General Verma.
See, Afrida, as I told you, one is the anomaly in the RPA and the income tax has to be removed. That then only this will make some sense. And the main issue, I mean, I would like to point, the Congress spokesperson brought out a valid point that there has to be a limit on the expenditure of the political parties also, like you have for the candidates. And ADR has a PIL on that, but unfortunately, Supreme Court has not heard it till now. But the elephant in the room is undoubtedly the electoral bond issue, which they call transparent, which everybody else feels is not transparency. And even electoral bonds are being used for converting black money into white. We don't know whether foreign funding is also coming. We don't know who's giving the thing. So they talk of transparency, but they do the opposite.
Okay. Aishwarya Mahadev, what Mr. Gupta was saying, that this is first step in a long process. At least it is starting somewhere.
You know, I think that the BJP always pushes it either to a point of absurdity where they accuse all of us of being, against any cleansing of corruption. And when they talk about black money, they'll talk about, prime examples of how they said they'll weed out black money. But there is more money in Swiss banks today, and demonetization saw 97 cash back into the system, right? The fact today remains that this is too small a measure of cleansing any sort of financial accountability in political funding. One. Second, if they really want to put their money where their mouth is, and if they're a government of difference, allow that anonymity of electoral bonds and even the legality of it to be actually seriously be put under scrutiny of the of the judiciary, because I genuinely feel like that is creating by far the most asymmetric power situation that we've ever seen. And 2,000 rupee donations are nothing compared to the crores and crores. The BJP still, forget electoral bonds, still had more than 477 crores of funding in the last financial year, which is 5 to 6 times more than any other political party. And today you see the sort of money that they have. So obviously, Afrida, why would they touch the big players that provide them
But
money?
I hope, Aishwarya, the Congress party would do the needful when they are in power, because from my experience and what I have seen, the party in power does things that will make them the primary beneficiary. I will not really be convinced that the Congress would not do the same. The DNA of political parties remain the same is what I can say. I have to leave it at that, though I appreciate all the important points made by my guests this evening. Thank you so much, Sanket Gupta, Aishwarya Mahadev and Major General Verma, for joining us.
Thank you.
Let's take a short break. Coming up on the other side, an exclusive interview with Jacques Scullis on the upcoming T20 World Cup. Stay tuned.